prison, home to more than 83,000 people in March, that number's only been rising over the last 100 years. Now, more than 40% of youngsters re-offend within the first year after release. So with more people being locked up than ever before, it's time to find out, do prisons work? That, of course, is a massively complex question, so before we try and tackle it, we've got to find out what it is a prison is supposed to do. Are they there to punish or reform offenders? Now, get used to the next voice you're going to hear. He'll be telling us over the next 10 minutes or so exactly what it's like being inside, and his story should help us get to an answer. In the past, he really wasn't a nice guy. He did 2 stints behind bars for possession of a firearm and assault. Now, Ian Perkins had what could be described as a perfectly good upbringing, so the story of how his life changed is well worth a listen.
So as a young age, probably at the age of 18, 19, I had quite a lot of street fights. That led to then me being asked to work in security. I started being as doorman at the age of 19. The life on the doors, that's what then led for me to get involved in crime. When I was 26, I was actually shot in the leg by a drive-by shooting by a gang in Birmingham Town Centre. That then led me to go, well, if they've done that to me, I'm going to get one back on them. And the cycle started. Ultimately, at 29, got caught with a firearm in a nightclub, in a situation, and I got an 8-year sentence. I'll never forget my first week in prison. That was, Mum and Dad got a visit to come and see me. And as they walked in the visit hall, I was escorted through and I was taken to the seat that I had to sit on. And we all broke down crying. You know, you couldn't hold it back. Mum and Dad were in tears. I was upset. My actions in the club that night by having the firearm put people at risk. So I'd affected a lot of people in one moment of madness.
Ian served 4 years of that stretch, but it was only when he was locked up did the humiliation settle in.
And I remember walking up to the prison officer's reception desk and saying, "Hello, mate." And he went, "I'm not your mate. You call me Gov or you'll call me Boss." And I was like, wow.
Ian first went down in 2004, and he'll tell you the prisons have changed a lot since then. For him, the biggest problem was boredom. So I wanted to know, were there any efforts made to try and rehabilitate him?
Not really. I was put on one course, which was a victim awareness course, which was great, but I sort of had enough empathy and sympathy for the victims anyway, so I knew where I was at. But it was a good course to sit on, but nothing else. And there was nothing else because I was educated. I couldn't do education. But for me, it was literally cleaning landings and serving food every day, and that was about as far as I could take it. So there was nothing to challenge my behaviour, nothing to deter me from going back to my old life.
Now, because of Ian's crime, when he was released, he was banned from ever working as a bouncer again, leaving him at a bit of a loose end. But he soon got his head down and started working at a job he enjoyed.
I went into the building game and I went into working as a builder's merchant. Started off working in the yard, and I didn't mind doing that because it was a job. I'd gone from earning really good money as a doorman to working more or less minimum wage in a building yard, but I was free. I was building a life again, so I was okay. I progressed in that and I got to a supervisor level in the shop, and then I got approached to look at being like a line manager there, which I thought, oh, great, perfect. And then I got made redundant. The company folded.
For Ian, this was truly crushing, and the hunt for work was held back because of his conviction, something he thinks is a key reason people re-offend.
I got through to the final interview at Selco, and they went, "We need to do a DBS check," which is a criminal record check. And I was like, "Well, actually, I've been in jail." And they went, "We can't take you on." At that point, I felt like I had no option. The only out for me was to go back into my old contacts, and I started doing illegal debt collections. It was giving me money to pay for the mortgage and pay for the house and everything. At which point again, of course, doing that work, it was only a matter of time and I got caught.
In Ian's view, more effort needs to be made to get offenders back into work.
There's many different tiers of offenders in custody where you've got guys in for drink driving, tax evasion. These guys aren't as much as a risk as what a burglar would be, but people put a blanket ban over an offender. They just typecast it. You're an offender, you're no good, no chance. Employment's more, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's really difficult. I had hundreds of applications and probably 5 interviews, and every interview was negative. It was never going to happen.
So back now to Ian's second stint inside, this time for assault.
Yeah, there was a gentleman who owed around £5,000 and I was asked to collect the money. The money was meant to be there. The guy didn't have the money. The guy got a bit aggressive. I got aggressive back. I hit the gentleman. I didn't realise where I was doing it. There was a camera that caught me hitting him and my vehicle was parked outside. 2 weeks later, my front door came off. Police raided my house and I was arrested for assaulting this gentleman. Because of my previous offence, they looked at me as being firearms, doorman, fighting again, and they put me in for 6 years. So back into prison the second time, and to me, prison had changed dramatically. So those couple of years of not being there, prison had deteriorated really badly. Whereas before there was always an order of regiment, the staff controlled the unlock, the wings, there was an air of respect between prisoners and between staff. You know, you might argue the point, but when they say lock up, you go behind your door and you get locked up. Not anymore. It's gone very weak. Prisoners run the landings more than the staff do.
So now we get to the crux of the issue, and as with many things, it comes down to money. Ian reckons a government plan to replace expensive prison officers with younger, cheaper ones led to many of the riots we've seen in the past few years.
New staff got trained. The prisoners saw how weak the staff were because they didn't have the experience. Prisoners straight away take advantage of that weakness and their confidence grows. Before you know it, you've got riots kicking off. Rehabilitation's gone at that point.
So Ian had a very different experience the second time round. There were fewer courses on offer, hardly any vocational training, and attitudes had changed. So prison didn't really do anything for him.
For me, it was a personal thing. So I'm not going to say that the prison service done anything to alter my behaviour, because honestly, they never. But what I realised was my life had to change. I've put my family through enough. I've put myself through enough. Enough people have suffered due to my actions.
After being released in 2014, Ian, a changed man, went straight to the job centre. He got rejected from a role picking up litter because they said he was a high risk. Instead of falling back on a life of crime, he started volunteering to help offenders once they're released.
But if you're trying to rehabilitate somebody who's, I'll be honest, who's 30 to 40, you've got a real good chance. If you're trying to rehabilitate somebody who's 20 or 20 to 25, it's more difficult because there doesn't seem to be a lot on offer for youth. But for a lot of the youngsters who don't have the fortune of having that education, it leads to one thing, which is gang culture and crime. And these youngsters that are in the system right now have got no intention of changing.
So, the big question, do prisons work?
At present, no. The reason being is because the staff are that consumed with the day-to-day running of the prison is there's no real time for the staff to get involved in the rehabilitation. If I could give you a snapshot of 2004 and 2018, they're worlds apart. There was respect in 2004, there was respect in 2008. In 2018, there's very, very little. And that's the big change that needs to happen. This new incentive they've got of bringing in new officers who are probably 18 to 22 without the life experience is the wrong move.
Ian Perkins knows just how important it is to get a job when you come out of prison. Being accepted back into society is fundamental to making sure people don't reoffend. That's why his laundry company Inside Out not only employs ex-offenders, but those still inside.
There's a prison I can think of in London. Does that one work? It does. It's got a 74% success rate of rehabilitation. The way the staff describe it is they will strip that person down of every problem that person has had, and then they will deal with each individual problem and rebuild that person. And honest to God, it's phenomenal. The guys that are in there have done some bad crimes, not taken away from anything, they've done some bad crimes, but they're trying really hard to put that right. Does that prison work? Yes, it does. Do the majority? Unfortunately not.